America is losing one of its closest partners, and the numbers are staggering. Canadian visits to the US have dropped more than 37% in a single month, wiping billions from tourism.
Last year, Canadians made over 20 million visits to the US and spent more than $20 billion here. But this year, many are not coming to America.
Airlines are pulling routes, border towns are bleeding revenue, and Washington's tariff war is pushing auto jobs across the border. It's more than a downturn. It's a fracture in one of the world's most important relationships. The question now is, how deep will this rift go? Let's discuss this and more in today's video.
We're not going to buy F-35s. We're going to ban your alcohol. We're going to tell our people not to travel to the United States.
2025 has been a year of serious trouble for U.S. tourism. International visitor spending is projected to drop by $12.5 billion, falling from about $181 billion in 2024 to just under $169 billion this year. The World Travel and Tourism Council says the United States is the only one among 184 economies expected to see a decline in this metric. The pain is measurable. Inbound travel is estimated to shrink by 4.2%, with Canadian bookings down by 35 to 43% year over year. Flight bookings for May-July are already running 10 to 14% lower than last year. At its heart, this crisis is not about demand disappearing. It's about global perceptions, policy drift, and a message being sent. The US feels unwelcoming. But why is Canada reacting so strongly? Let's turn to what's happening next. Canadians are pulling back from US travel in a way we haven't seen in years. Through July 2025, travel from Canada to the US is down 25.2% year-to-date, and in July alone, car arrivals dropped 37% compared to July 2024. British Columbians driving into Washington state fell around 39% in August after similar steep declines in prior months. Why is this happening? A mix of trade tensions, US rhetoric, and fears about immigration and border policy. Surveys show 63% of Canadian adults say US policies make them less likely to visit. Air travel has fallen too, about 26% year over year in July. People aren't just postponing a trip, many are choosing different destinations entirely. And when travel shifts this hard, other parts of the story open up, like what's happening in the airline world. The aviation sector is sending a clear message. Flying to the US just got harder. Iceland's Play Airlines, once a gateway for Nordic travelers, is ending all its US routes by October 2025. That route collapse triggered a greater than 60% drop in travel from Northern Europe. Canada's own Air Canada and WestJet slashed flights to US hotspots by over 40%, so now domestic Canadian flights outnumber US ones. Germany's Lufthansa pulled out of long-standing US routes, citing security, fee increases, and low load factors. Air France-KLM cut as much as 45% of its US service. What's going on? Airlines are citing visa hassles, safety concerns, and too many empty seats. When even carriers can't justify showing up, the travel map rewires itself. Next, we'll look at how that shift isn't just numbers, it's about how people feel welcome or not when visiting. For many Canadians, the US doesn't feel like a friendly neighbor anymore. It's not just about expensive tickets or fewer flights, it's about how people expect to be treated once they arrive. In polls, nearly two-thirds of Canadians say US policies make them less likely to visit, and border surveys highlight fear of being pulled aside, questioned, or even detained. Stories in Canadian media about families facing harsh immigration checks have struck a nerve. Add to this the political noise, where US politicians openly talk about tariffs, annexation jokes, and stricter entry rules. That mix has created an emotional barrier, not just a physical one. When tourists feel more like suspects than guests, they stop coming, and that's exactly what we're seeing. This shift shows up most clearly in the small towns and businesses along the border. Border towns are where the impact hits hardest. In Vermont, New York, and Washington state, shopkeepers are reporting revenue plunges of 30 to 40% compared with last summer. Duty-free stores, which rely almost entirely on Canadian traffic, have seen double-digit sales declines for 6 straight months. Local events built around cross-border visitors, from small beer festivals to community markets, have either been canceled or are running at half capacity. Credit card data shows Canadian spending inside the US down by almost $2 billion this year alone. To cope, some towns have launched Canada-friendly campaigns, putting up bilingual signs and even renaming streets temporarily. But goodwill slogans don't make up for empty parking lots. When border communities suffer this badly, it becomes more than an economic story. It erodes America's image and soft power globally. Tourism isn't just about money, it's also about image. When fewer Canadians cross the border, it chips away at US soft power, the cultural influence that once drew students, artists, and business talent. International enrollments in American universities dropped by over 5% in 2024, and early numbers for 2025 show a further decline, with Canada and Europe seeing those students instead. Major events add to the stakes. The 2026 FIFA World Cup, partly hosted in the US, will depend heavily on foreign fans, yet polls show many are rethinking travel plans. Even the 2028 Los Angeles Olympics could be affected if the unwelcoming perception lingers. Once a country loses its reputation as open and accessible, rebuilding that trust takes decades. And the same theme plays out in trade, where tariffs are reshaping the American auto industry. The cracks in America's image don't stop at tourism. They extend into trade, where tariffs are reshaping entire industries. Nowhere is this more visible than in the auto sector. In 2025, Washington imposed a 25% tariff on imported cars and auto parts. On paper, the idea was to protect U.S. jobs, but in practice, it's made vehicles thousands of dollars more expensive. Analysts estimate the average sticker price has jumped by about $4,700 per car, pushing affordability to its lowest level in decades. A research group forecast nearly 2 million fewer auto sales this year compared with 2024. For working families already squeezed by high financing costs, that's a deal-breaker. Automakers, meanwhile, are scrambling to adapt, and some have started looking across the border for solutions. Which brings us directly to Ford's surprising decision in Canada. Ford's move tells the story clearly. Instead of doubling down in Michigan or Ohio, the company shifted a $3 billion investment to Oakville, Ontario, converting its plant there into a hub for building Super Duty pickup trucks. That decision secured around 3,200 Canadian jobs and created capacity for 100,000 vehicles a year, jobs and production that might have stayed in the U.S. if tariffs hadn't changed the math. And Ford isn't alone. Stellantis reported a $2.6 billion loss this year, trimming nearly 900 jobs in North America, while GM profits dropped by over $1 billion in the last quarter. Packer, maker of Kenworth trucks, took a $75 million hit from tariffs in just 3 months. Companies are looking north or to Mexico to avoid these costs. But the real pressure is showing up on the consumer side, ordinary Americans buying cars. Tariffs and rising auto costs aren't just numbers on a balance sheet. They hit everyday Americans hard. Surveys show 42% of potential car buyers have canceled purchases, and 65% would walk away if monthly payments rise just 5%. Even households earning over $200,000 annually report pulling back, with 32% abandoning new car plans. Average transaction prices for new vehicles climbed to around $48,800, making affordable models under $30,000 harder to find. The political impact is immediate. President Trump's net approval among ages 18 to 29 dropped 32 points in 2025, while support among Hispanic voters fell 28 points. On major issues like the economy, crime, and immigration, public confidence has dropped. Ordinary Americans are feeling powerless as tariffs ripple through industries and daily life, a story that raises broader questions about the administration's ability to manage complex economic realities. Meanwhile, Canada isn't standing still. It's adapting fast. While the U.S. struggles with self-inflicted economic wounds, Canada is seizing opportunity. Ottawa lifted 25% retaliatory tariffs on U.S. goods qualifying under CUSMA rules while keeping steel, aluminum, and auto tariffs intact, maintaining leverage over key industries. Canada is also a critical energy supplier, providing 27% of U.S. uranium and stable hydroelectric power for growing data center demand. Ford's Oakville investment shows how cross-border moves can turn U.S. policy turbulence into a Canadian advantage. Meanwhile, American political gridlock slows any effective response, leaving businesses and consumers paying the price. With major global events like the 2026 FIFA World Cup and 2028 Olympics approaching, the clock is ticking. Can the U.S. repair trust, restore its tourism and industrial appeal, and reclaim its soft power before these opportunities slip away? So, what do you think? Can America turn this around, or is it already too late? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more informative videos. Thanks for watching.